Hi, good afternoon. It's April 30th, 2016, and um, I decided today to try to see if I could upload another video and share more information that I've been able to uh, garner. I've been very blessed in the last year, 2015. I was able to go on 3 vacations. One to Hawaii, one to Panama, and one to Barbados. And I will tell you, it was a blessing, all 3 of those vacations. Hawaii didn't turn out how it had been advertised or promised, but, got to make the best of it. It's a very long ride from New York to Hawaii. I wouldn't recommend doing it all in one day like I did, or at least give yourself a layover of a couple of hours, because it's a long trip. It's 12 hours from here to Los Angeles is 6, I believe, and then the other 6 to Hawaii. And the way the airlines are now, they're not comfortable, they don't feed you, and it's quite cramped. So, I made that trip, and I was very happy and proud to go there. And I'll probably not do that ever again unless I, have someone that's traveling with me and we can stay overnight somewhere or hang out in Los Angeles for a while, which is not the worst thing in the world to do. So, in Hawaii, I was able to visit Pearl Harbor, of course, because I had to. Because, for those of you who don't know, that was my nickname growing up. My grandfather always called me Pearl Harbor because my birthday is December 7th. Figure that. And I felt that that's part of the journey that I needed to make to Pearl Harbor to see it for myself. And it was beautiful. It is a cemetery that's underwater. And it's a nice tribute to those who lost their lives on that day in 1941, I believe it was, when Pearl Harbor was bombed. So, since that was my nickname, I wanted to really go and see for myself. Of course, I knew what Pearl Harbor had looked like from pictures, but I just wanted to have that experience. And I know that it was the right thing to do because afterwards, when we were waiting around, they had, merchants selling things. And I actually was buying some earrings, so I decided I wanted to get some pearl earrings. And they let you pick your own oysters there. It's called Maui Divers. And you get to pick your own oysters. And I picked an oyster that had 2 coral pearls in it, which was surprising to everybody. And I got a credit check, and when they checked the credit, they said, okay, well, you get a free oyster to open up to make something else. And they make the jewelry for you right there, and you can go home with it. So, okay, this is how it actually went. I saw a ring at first, and I opened up the oysters, and there were 2 coral pearls in the oyster. So they made me a ring with the pearls. And the free oyster that I got to open had another set of twin pearls. So I said, okay, well, make me matching earrings to go with the ring. They were shocked. They said they'd never seen that since they've been doing. Usually, you get a different color. You can get white, you can get black pearls that come up, or like kind of a silver or opal. Beautiful, all of them. But me wanting coral pearls, which is not that common, and then for me to get 2 twice, it was shock. To me, that was confirmation from my ancestors that my going to Pearl Harbor and making that trip was pleasing to them and something that they had definitely wanted me to do. I believe in the veneration of our ancestors, and I believe that when you do the right thing, they will let you know. Just like when you're doing the wrong thing, they will let you know. So that was the best part of my journey, and I had a year to pay for the earrings and the ring, and they were beautiful. And I still have them. I didn't put them on because I didn't expect to talk about that really today. But they're gorgeous, and I'll wear them one day when I do a recording. So that was Hawaii. Hawaii is beautiful. They have lots of wild chickens running around the street in Hawaii. They're called feral chickens, and they just live there. Nobody eats them. Nobody steals them. They're just like pigeons are to us. And I thought that was kind of interesting, too. So my other trip that I went on was to Panama. And I booked that trip through Caravan Tours, which was excellent. We stayed in the best hotels and resorts. We got to see all of Panama, the canal, Miraflores Locks, Gatun, Cologne, where our family is from. It was an interesting trip. Actually stayed in the hotel with President Obama. He was upstairs and we were downstairs on the floor underneath. The hotel, I guess, had planned to put us in the rooms that he and the Secret Service ended up taking over. So in payment for that, or like as goodwill, they gave all of us bands to wear on our arms for the 2 days we were there, for us to get free liquor. So that was cool. Free drinks for 2 days because the president took our rooms. Who knew? We didn't know what rooms we were going to. We were on a tour. The tour took us, there were 31 of us on a bus with the driver and the tour guide. Her name is Yanni, and she just was excellent. And if you go online, you can see the YouTube that she posted of our trip. It was April 4th, 2015, and you'll see shots and pictures of the different activities that we did for the 8 days that we were there. We did have to pay our own flight back and forth, and we took Taco Airlines, I believe it was, or Taka Airlines, I believe. I don't remember right this moment, and it was wonderful. They fed us on both legs of the trip there, because we had to stop in, I believe, Bogota on the way in and Ecuador on the way back, or vice versa. But it was very nice. The people were nice to us. We had a wonderful, wonderful time. The food was great, just like we're used to. The Panamanian food that I grew up with was right there. We had buffet-style meals, and even in the Plaza Westin Hotel that President Obama was staying upstairs, there was potato salad and sauce on the buffet table. Shocking, and tastes exactly like the sauce I grew up with. Just beautiful. Which leads me to my next trip, which was Barbados, where the sauce there is not nothing like the sauce in Panama. Don't even get it twisted. They make it totally different, but it's called the same thing. It has pork, but they put fat back and all kinds of stuff in it. I didn't like it. But Barbados was gorgeous. It was beautiful. It was home. I felt at home there. When I went to Panama and I was on the plane, I was crying. And I don't know why, but I had tears coming into Panama. I didn't get that same problem in Barbados. I didn't have tears, but I had a feeling of home. I felt comfortable. I heard the voices and the people there, and everything resonated. I saw men who looked like my brother. Um, I recognized his features in the features of the men there. I heard the voices of my son and my children, my grandchildren, my daughter, the way they speak, and the way we all speak in our family. Very well-spoken people. Not bragging, just, saying what it is. Um, it was just lovely. Barbados is gorgeous. I was very, very, very fortunate to go on my first trip there with a friend who grew up in Barbados. He's very familiar with it, and he goes there regularly, and he drives. They drive on the other side of the road, so thank God for that. He drove us all around the island. He showed us all the places that there were to see. So we weren't really like tourists, and we weren't really left on our own. We stayed in a nice hotel called the Gap in St. Lawrence. St. Lawrence Parish is the parish next to Christchurch Parish. And Christchurch Parish is where our family lived in Barbados, from all the information that I've been able to get. So it was pretty exciting. It was wonderful. Everything in Barbados ends with a rum punch. Just a warning. Any activity that you go on, they're handing you rum punches. Sometimes they're free. Most of the times they're free. Sometimes you have to pay for it, but that's no big deal. American money is a good exchange in Barbados. So you get double for your buck. So let's say something in Barbadian money costs $12. In American money, it costs $6. So, and everybody takes U.S. dollars and Bajan dollars, and from the merchants on the street to the stores. And we went to duty-free stores. I bought a few things, that way we didn't have to pay taxes on them. Cigarettes and liquor, such things like that. So it was pretty great trip. I had a lovely time. We stayed in a wonderful room. It had an efficiency kitchen. I was able to cook. I made codfish and, for breakfast, codfish with the tomatoes and onions cut up in it. And you soak the codfish overnight, get all the salt out, or you can boil it up if you want to do that and get more salt out. Throw the water off, put it in the pan with the sliced up onions and green peppers if you have, and tomatoes, and saute them down, seasoning with some hot pepper sauce or some Scotch bonnet peppers if you have, and that could be served over grits, or kuku is what they serve it with in Barbados and in Panama. So kuku is like a porridge. What do you call it? It's like a porridge with okra in it, and so they make it like a little round cake, and they serve it hot, and it's covered with the codfish that I like what I made, and flying fish, which is a fish that is native to the Barbadian area, and it's becoming very hard to get because it's, everybody's eating it up, all the tourists and the people that live there. So salt flying fish and kuku is their native dish, and I was able to have that at a couple of restaurants and enjoyed it immensely. It was hard to find at first. The hotel we were staying at, they didn't have any flying fish the first couple of days, but by the time we left there, they had come up with it. And as I said, a couple of other restaurants that we went to, they had it. They have a kind of a fast food place, but there's nothing fast about it. Very crowded place, and you can go there, and they eat dolphin. So at first I was like, I'm not eating Flipper. That's like eating Bambi or Bugs Bunny. Don't do that. But it's not like that. It's not the dolphin that we are used to. Some other type of fish that they call dolphin, and it's very good. It's very meaty, and I would recommend that. They don't have a lot of like McDonald's and Burger King. They have a few McDonald's. I think I saw one or two. But mostly people eat street food. They eat at the restaurants or they eat at home. One evening we were very blessed to be able to go over to Leslie Mullen. He's the gentleman that is a friend of mine who took us there. I mean, we all paid our way, but he was our guide. Um, and he was able to take us to his aunt and uncle's home. And his aunt and uncle are very important figures in the government in Barbados. And we had a really nice time at their house, had a beautiful dinner, and was very welcome. So I appreciated that also. I think of all of the places that I've ever been in my life, um, I would love to live in Barbados. I would love that to be my home eventually, if it was ever possible. There's a concern with the heat situation because of my multiple sclerosis. Heat is not recommended, but if I get an air-conditioned house and an air-conditioned car, I should be pretty good. And at night, it's just a party every night where we were. I think the only night that they didn't have bands and music was Wednesday going into Thursday. But every other night was a party. They were playing the music. They were having karaoke. It was just wonderful. The street merchants was out to buy jewelry or instruments or clothing and food outside of the hotel. And it was just a wonderful thing to do. I had done this thing called Packing with a Purpose, and I had taken on my own, saw that what they do is if you bring things for children, for school children, then they will distribute it to them if you bring it in your suitcase. So I did that. I brought 3 composition books and file folders and leaf paper and pens and pencils. I bought enough for everybody, for 3 people to get complete sets of everything that I had. It weighed down my suitcase quite a lot, and I almost had to leave them home or pay extra for bringing my things. But on the way back, it turned out that it worked well because I had a lot of room for souvenirs, which I got a few of. But I was able to give those to the children, and I did 3 because my grandfather and his 2 brothers were little boys there, so I figured I would do it like that in 3s. And it was a good feeling, and it was much appreciated by the children, I'm sure. Kids in Barbados go to school from the time they're 2, all the way up until the end of high school, free education, and those who test well get to go to university, and some of them get to go to Great Britain to go to school to study for a while. So it's really a wonderful system. The government is run by Africans, black people, and the population is 93% African, and the other people are from Wales, Scotland, some from the United Kingdom, but it was nice. Some lots of places being built, a lot of vacation resort type situations going on. And as I said, if I could afford it, and if I had I could afford it, but if I was able to swing it with this house and there, I think I would love to do that one day if God blesses my life. Let's see, what else? So that's what I did last year. I went to Panama first, then I went to Hawaii, and in September I went to Barbados, and it was a glorious, wonderful experience, and I'm so grateful that I was able to enjoy those experiences and share them now with you, family. So that's what I wanted to get on videotape. There are other things. I've been doing some research about our family. I found out by using the Ancestry DNA service from Ancestry.com that my genetic makeup, and so therefore your genetic makeup, is 37% from Benin and Togo in Africa. Used to be called Dahomey or Dahomey. 12% from Nigeria. But I just thought it was very interesting about the Benin and Togo. They practice Yoruba in that area of the world. That's what I practice today, so I say. And I think that all these roads have led me back to getting this information, sharing this information, and making sure that we continue our traditions that were stolen from us when we were kidnapped as a people and brought to Barbados first and then parceled out to different places around the world. So for my family, we went from the west coast of Africa, probably Dahomey, and ended up in Barbados, and then eventually ended up in Panama, and then in the United States. On my father's side of the family, it was probably a similar type of a journey, but I have to do more research on that. It's amazing the destruction that was done to our culture and to our peoples, our families, by the slave trade. However way they want to whitewash it. It was torture, it was kidnap, it was rape, and it was enslavement that had nothing to do with the slavery that went on in the tribes, between the tribes in Africa. You had a war, you captured slaves. They weren't slaves forever, and they weren't slaves generationally, and they weren't treated and mistreated the way the Africans were when they were stolen from our native lands or sold into slavery and sent across many, many rivers, many, many seas. Can you imagine being kidnapped and not knowing where you were, not knowing what these people are saying to you, just knowing that what they're doing to you is horrible? The things that you've experienced, the things that you've seen, the people that you've come in contact with, everybody's suffering, everybody's sad, everybody's yearning to go home. People are killing themselves. People are being killed by these strange people. And no one ever comes for you. Your family doesn't come to rescue you. No matter how far you look into that water, no matter how far you go, nobody comes for you. Can you imagine? And this trauma is a trauma that has remained with our people and will remain with our people. I don't even think there's anything that can be done to rectify that, because it's an experience like no other peoples have had for such a long time. And then to be a stranger in a country and then to become part of this nation and still, all these years later, still being treated as second-class citizens. And it's just wrong. It's just totally wrong. And but that's the world that we're in, and that's the country that we're in. And I'm not to say that I'd want to live I wouldn't want to live in Barbados now. But the United States has great things about it, but there's a lot wrong with it that needs to be addressed so that we can, go forward to a more perfect nation. And it can be if everybody just takes responsibility for what went on. And I understand that they can't pay reparations because they could never afford to pay the reparations to restore us to something. They owe us for every day, for every moment, for every second that we were enslaved and made to do labor and raise their children and cook their food and have sex with them and everything else that they were doing to us. They owe us for every moment that we had to endure running and hiding and being lynched and chased by dogs. They owe us for every injustice that we survived as a people through slavery, through Reconstruction, through the Jim Crow, through segregation, up until the Voting Rights Act, until today. Because they're never going to give up their power without a struggle. Because they're afraid that we may treat them the way they treated us, and they are afraid of that because they can't imagine that they wouldn't do it if the shoes were on the other foot, because they did it, so they're afraid. But they do owe us something. They do owe us some peace. If they could just leave, let us live, let us be equal, let us get what we're entitled to, let us be able to get our educations, let us be able to live in safe neighborhoods. Let us be able to feel that the police are there to protect and serve us just as any other community. And these are things that could be easily done and easily solved. But there's a stubbornness among these people that they need to address. They have some mental deficiencies or challenges that need to be addressed for them to recognize their entitlement, that they are reaping the benefits of all the work, all the tears, and all the suffering that was done at the hands, that was issued out at the hands of the slave masters and the slave owners, and was used against the native people here and also the Africans that were brought here against their will. There's a lot of lessons to be learned, and they know that we have contributed so much beauty to the American culture and so much flavor to the American way of life. Through music, through food, through dance, through our talents. And they need to recognize that, and they need to be grateful, and they need to do what they can do to make it right, instead of doing everything they can do to try to erase us. We will overcome, but the struggle continues. All right, fam. I'll talk to you soon. Love, peace, ashe.